What if I told you that one of the most powerful empires in human history started its journey without money? No coins, no currency, no system of value, just trade and survival. But then something happened. A system was created that didn't just change Rome, it changed the entire world. And here's the shocking part. The first Roman currency was not gold. It was not silver. It was something far more unexpected. By the end of this video, you will discover who created the first Roman currency, what it was actually worth, when it was invented, and how long it ruled the economy of an empire that dominated the world. Let's go back to the beginning. Before the rise of the Roman Empire, Rome was just a small settlement, and like most early societies, there was no currency. People survived through barter, grain for tools, animals for weapons, services for food. But barter had one major problem. It was slow and efficient, and unreliable. Because what if you had something to trade, but the other person didn't need it? This problem forced Rome to search for something better, and that's where the story begins. The first form of Roman currency was not coins, it was bronze. Heavy, raw, unshaped bronze. This system was called as rude, chunks of metal, no design, no stamp, no official value, just weight. People would literally carry pieces of bronze and weigh them during transactions. Imagine buying something, and instead of giving money, you hand over a chunk of metal. That was early Rome. Primitive but evolving. Then came a revolutionary moment. Around the 4th century BCE, Rome introduced something new. Standardized bronze bars. This system was called as signatum. Now, instead of random metal pieces, there were official bars with symbols, animals, patterns, markings. This was a turning point, because now Rome had something closer to real money. But it still wasn't perfect. It was heavy, very heavy, and that led to the next evolution. Finally, the moment that changed everything. Around 280 BCE, Rome created its first real coins, stamped, recognizable, portable. This system was called as grave. These were large bronze coins. Each coin had a specific value, and for the first time, Rome had a true currency system. This was the beginning of Roman economic power. But Rome wasn't done, because the real revolution came later. Around 211 BCE, Rome introduced a silver coin that would dominate the empire, the denarius. This coin became the backbone of Roman economy. It was smaller, valuable, easy to use, and most importantly, trusted. The denarius became so powerful that it lasted for centuries. Now here's the question everyone wants to know. What was it actually worth? The value was based on metal content, bronze for everyday use, silver for major transactions. For example, a soldier in ancient Rome might earn a few denarii per day. That means this coin had real purchasing power: food, clothing, services. Everything depended on it. This was not just money. It was the foundation of the Roman economy. Roman currency did not appear overnight. It evolved over time, as rude. Early systems before 4th century BCE as signatum, around 4th 3rd century BCE as grave, around 280 BCE denarius, around 211 BCE. This gradual evolution shows something powerful. Rome didn't suddenly become advanced. It adapted, step by step. Now here's something interesting. Ancient sources do not mention a specific season, like winter or summer, because back then, time was not recorded like today. But historians believe these systems developed during periods of economic expansion, war preparation, trade growth, especially during times when Rome needed stronger financial control. So instead of a season, it was necessity that gave birth to Roman currency. This is where things get truly shocking. The Roman currency system lasted for over 500 years. Yes, centuries. The denarius alone remained in use from around 211 BCE until the 3rd century CE. That is an incredible lifespan. Few currencies in history have lasted that long. Here's something most people never realize. Rome didn't become powerful just because of its army. It became powerful because of its system. Roads, law, and money. Currency allowed Rome to Pay soldiers, control trade, collect taxes, expand influence. Without money, the empire could not function. Currency was the engine behind Roman expansion, but nothing lasts forever. Over time, the Roman government began to reduce the silver content in coins. This made them less valuable. Inflation increased, trust decreased, and slowly, the system weakened. This was one of the factors that contributed to the fall of the Western Roman Empire. So now let's answer the question. Who created the first Roman currency? Not one man, not one ruler. It was the Roman civilization itself, through evolution, through necessity, through survival. From raw bronze to powerful silver coins, Rome built a system that shaped history. But here is something even more shocking. Some historians believe that the fall of Roman currency was one of the biggest reasons the empire collapsed, and that story is even more intense. If you want to discover that secret, you need to watch the next video, because what happened next changed the world forever. What if I told you the same system that made Rome powerful also destroyed it? The Roman currency, the very thing that built an empire, became the reason it started collapsing. And the most shocking part, it didn't happen overnight. It happened slowly, silently, until it was too late. By the end of this video, you will discover how Roman money lost its value, why the famous denarius became almost worthless, and how this financial collapse shook the entire empire. Let's begin where everything started to go wrong. For centuries, Rome's economy was stable. The denarius was trusted, trade was strong, soldiers were paid, everything worked. But then, Rome made a dangerous decision. They started printing more money, not physically printing like today, but minting more coins. And here's the problem. They didn't have enough silver. So what did they do? They reduced the silver content. This process is called debasement, and this was the beginning of the end. At first, nobody noticed. The coins looked the same design, same size, same symbol. But inside, less silver, more cheap metal. This meant one thing: the value was fake. Imagine earning money. That looks real, but slowly becomes worthless. That's exactly what happened in Rome. The denarius was once a symbol of strength, but over time it lost its purity. From nearly pure silver to mixed metal. Eventually, it became almost bronze. People started to realize something was wrong. And when trust disappears, the system begins to break. As more low-value coins entered the market, prices began to rise. Food became expensive, goods became harder to buy, and people needed more coins just to survive. This is called inflation, and Rome was drowning in it. Now here's where things get serious. Roman soldiers were paid in currency, but when that currency lost value, their pay became meaningless. Imagine risking your life for money that can't even buy food. This created anger, frustration, and eventually rebellion. The Roman army was the strongest force in the world, but now it was weakening. Soldiers demanded higher pay. The government printed even more coins, which made the problem worse. This cycle kept repeating: more money, less value, more anger, less control. Merchants stopped trusting Roman currency. Why accept coins that keep losing value? So what did they do? They returned to barter. Yes, barter. The same system Rome had abandoned centuries ago. This was a massive step backward. Trade slowed down, economy weakened, and chaos began to spread. Another dangerous effect appeared. The rich protected themselves. They used gold, land, resources. But the poor, they suffered. Their savings became worthless. Their lives became harder. This created a huge gap between rich and poor. And history shows, when inequality rises, empires fall. The Roman government tried to fix the problem. They created new coins, new systems, new rules. But nothing worked, because the real problem was trust. And once trust is broken, it's almost impossible to rebuild. By the 3rd century CE, the Roman economy was in crisis. Currency had lost its meaning. Inflation was out of control. Trade was collapsing. The army was unstable, and enemies were at the borders. Rome was no longer strong. It was vulnerable. Now here's the shocking truth. The fall of Roman currency was not the only reason Rome collapsed, but it was one of the biggest reasons, because money is the foundation of power. Without stable currency, no army, no trade, no control. And without control, an empire cannot survive. Rome teaches us something powerful. Even the greatest empire in history can fall, not just because of war, but because of bad decisions, economic mistakes, and loss of trust. But here's something even more mind-blowing. Some historians believe that the fall of Rome started long before the economy collapsed. There are hidden secrets about political corruption, power struggles, and decisions that sealed Rome's fate. If you want to uncover those secrets, the next video will reveal everything. And trust me, it's darker than you think.